Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with more PLOker hands, and I thought, what a great time to do it. Gus Hansen is back playing the great game. About a week or two ago, Gus was playing the live high-stakes PLO stream over at the King's Casino in Europe, 5100, that often play with a straddle. A lot of action, a lot of crazy players, a lot of high-stakes PLO legends, and a lot of fun hands. We're going to be going over some of the hands that were played over these next couple months, in addition to other Pot Limit Omaha content on my YouTube channel just about every day. So let's get into this hand. The hand's playing 5100 with a 200 straddle and a 400 straddle. Gus Hansen's in the cutoff with 10-8-7-4 double suited. I think most of us, we look at 10-8-7-4, we say, we're putting our hands together, we want to put some money in the pot. Unfortunately, in this spot, Gus is starting to hand off with a little less than 50 big blinds effective due to the two straddles. He's got loose Leon to his left, who owns the casino, and this guy does not like to fold. Also, in the big blind, which kind of makes this a little bit of a special game, there is a man named the Crocodile. Now, I've done my research on the Crocodile. I've watched some of the hands. The scouting report on the Crocodile says, this guy is my guy. He does not come to fold. Some people come to the casino, they come there to maybe play some hands, fold some hands. The Crocodile comes to the casino to play hands, and I like that, especially in a great game like Pot Limit Omaha. So when you're in a spot like this, you got 10-8-7-4. I think a lot of people are going to be, tempted to put money in the pot. They want to play hands in position against a guy who doesn't like to fold, but it's a pretty hand. I think often in this times, it's a hand where it just plays pretty poorly multi-way. It's just going to get you into a lot of bad spots. I think that the better Pot Limit Omaha player you are, the more you can potentially open a hand like this. The worse player you are, the worse mistakes you're going to make after the flop. You're going to maybe make some bad folds. You're going to make some bad continuation bets. You're going to maybe make some bad turn continuation bets. So oftentimes, the worse the player is, the more I advocate for folding hands like this. So, and once your skill level gets a little bit better, then you can start adding in hands like this, potentially. But either way, I think folding here is fine. I do think that, I mean, it's kind of one of those spots where either decision, I don't mind. But I think for most players, I would advocate making a tight fold here with the 10-8-7-4 double suited. Gus does decide to go ahead and raise, makes $1,200. Leon folds the button. Crocodile makes a speculative call with a Queen 9-6-2. Normally, I like my Queen 9-6-2s to be double suited if I'm going to put money in, but I can understand Crocodile. It wants to play hands. I'm perfectly fine with that. Tony G wakes up with Ace, King 8 with one suit in the big blind, decides to go ahead and make a 3-bet to $4,000. Gus here in this spot, he already put $1,200 in. You know our motto here on PLOker Hands. We do not fold to 3-bets. Don't care what the circumstances are. If you ever see me fold to a 3-bet, you need to call me out, okay? No folding the 3-bets around here. Gus makes a quick call. Crocodile, very disciplined fold with the Queen 9-6-2 in the big blind. Now we go ahead and we see a flop. Flop comes down, Jack 5-4 with two clubs. Tony G flops a nut flush draw, a backdoor quad draw, and a backdoor straight draw. Gus has bottom pair with a gut shot straight draw, a backdoor diamond draw, and a backdoor straight draw. So we look at this flop. Obviously, Tony G crushes this flop. He's got a monster hand. He goes ahead and bets pretty quickly, bets 9,000 into 9,500. So Gus has about 16,000 back here, and we take a look and we say, what should Gus do? So, and I kind of made this video before, unfortunately, and I was scrolling through these hands. I looked at this hand and I said, oh man, Gus, this is just a pretty easy fold from Gus on this flop. But then I took a deeper look into it after a comment, and I said, wait a second, this is what makes PLO such a fun game, is that the math says this actually isn't a fold. This is a hand where Gus has 16,000 behind. Essentially, he can call the 9,000 and then maybe play some turns with the last 6,500. He can just go all in here. So when you take a look at the math here, against a 5% 3-bet range, a 10% 3-bet range, or 15% 3-bet range, Gus has about 42%. So in this spot, to go all in here, he needs about 37%. So Gus has a very, some might say standard shove here with his hand. But I sort of like to look at this and I say, all right, do we always have to shove here? By the math, when you take a look at the math, and obviously I talk about this a lot, PLO is a game of math, we do pretty much have to shove here. It's just kind of unfortunate, is that I feel like feel like when I'm not playing my best, I oftentimes will get myself into spots like this where I'm like, I got to put the money in. And it ends up being a spot where I put in money bad pre-flop. I put in money bad on the flop. I'm just putting a lot of money in where I'm not a favorite. And now, obviously, that's just going to happen sometimes when you have 42% and you only need 37%, you might have put the money in. In the long run, that's going to be a profitable play. But if we do take a look at maybe if we say Tony G's range, isn't that entire 5% of that entire 10%, maybe he's going to check some of those hands. Maybe he's only going to bet a little bit stronger of a range on that spectrum right there. Then we can maybe make a case for folding. But this is kind of, I guess, a fun PLO spot where it's just kind of you get the money in. So we take a look at what does happen here. Gus thinks about it for a while, kind of decides what to do. Hems and haws, does his chip dance. He's still great with the chips, and he decides to go ahead and he just calls the flop. So we go ahead, we see the turn. Turn comes down, it's a queen of clubs. Tony G has a nut flush here, and he decides to check pretty quickly, and Gus thinks and he checks back as well. So I guess there is some merit to potentially trying to bet in Gus's spot, maybe take advantage of a bit of fold equity. Will it work? I mean, I could actually see that working, and I think that play, I don't hate that play really. I don't hate that play in Gus's spot here, but I think you take a look at what does Gus's range here. So Jack 5-4, he just calls. I think oftentimes if he has a pair with a flush draw, he's just going to shove it all in. If he has most flush draws, he's probably just going to go all in on the flop. If he's got a jack with 3 other cards, I mean, pretty much a jack, I think 3 cards, I think he's just going to go all in on the flop. So what hands might he call with? Honestly, kind of a hand like he has, a 5-7-8, a 4-6-7, maybe like a 5-2-3 without clubs, some type of hand like that. So in Tony G's spot, when the turn comes to queen of clubs and we think that Gus is going to shove all in with most of his club hands, well, I like the check a lot from Tony G. It gives Gus potentially a chance to bluff with some of those hands. I think all the 2-pair hands on the flop, the Jack 5, Jack 4, 5-4 are just going to shovel in on the flop as well too. So I like his play, and now it kind of comes down to Gus. I guess I don't mind betting. I don't mind checking back if we don't think we have any fold equity, and we want to see if we're going to hit our hand on the river or just try to get to a showdown. So he decides, he checks back, and then the river comes down. It's an ace of hearts, and Tony decides to bet pretty quickly here. So I think about this from Tony's perspective, and he obviously has the nuts. He just wants to bet and pray. But I think if we go back to what the flop range is for Gus, and I think this is something that players need to think more about. So oftentimes we win hands and we just say, all right, we won hand, good job. But I think that there isn't enough thought being put into the hands that we win. And instead of thinking, all right, could I have played this better? Could I have played this differently? Could I have played this, was there another line I could have taken to get more money? We just sort of say, I run bad, I made an unflush, and then he ends up folding. When oftentimes there may have been a better play. And, maybe oftentimes there isn't a better play, but it's at least something to think about, and it's something to get in the habit of doing in situations that are kind of like this, because, $6,500 or $6,900 behind, well, not that much money compared to the pot, compared to the game, but at the same time, that is still a pretty good amount of money. So Tony G decides to bet pretty quickly, and then Gus obviously folds. So Tony he blocks the aces. He does block the king 10 in this spot. There's some chance that Gus will call. If he's got the 2-3, he's going to call with 2-3. I think more of Gus's range is going to be just hands that can't call this river when we have the aces in our hand. So we block the ace 4, ace 5, 2-pair combinations. I think if he had ace jack, he just goes on the flop. So I think that maybe giving Gus a chance to bluff this river might be the best play, but at the same time, you can't really go wrong with just betting your hand in a spot like this too and just hoping that you get called by something. So Tony G bets, Gus makes a fold, and Tony G takes the hand down. So yeah, it's just something, this is very interesting to think about, because my initial first thought in this hand was that, all right, just an easy fold from Gus in the flop, but Now you take a look at the math, and you dig into the math, and you say, well, actually, it's not an easy fold. It's a hand where you can just go all in with, or you can just call here with. So in terms of calling versus going in on the flop, I mean, I don't know. I don't love either option really in this situation, but that's what makes PLO such a fun game. That's what makes these spots so unique. That's what's going to make the upcoming PLO hands hopefully exciting, hopefully something that people can learn from. That's it. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching.